Morning, everyone. So we're on to chapter 16, The Beach Shoes. Now we're going to finish this book before even the big book 4 is published. What are we going to do then? I'm going to have to try and find you something different to read. Oh, I don't know. What shall we do? When Bodkin woke up, cold, shivering, the transformation medicine that turned him into Tsar had worn off, as had any residual excitement. Maybe there was some bit of Tsar that was still left in there when he had briefly taken over Tsar's body, but whatever mad impulse had taken him over, it was now gone. He looked down at his arms, skinny as weeds. He wasn't even a hob anymore. He was just Bodkin, an extremely ordinarily assistant bodyguard who had betrayed the trust of his princess. Bodkin was used to being alone, even when he was in company, but for the first time in his life he really was completely alone. With shaking hands, he took out the map that he had torn from the spelling book that showed him the way to the Nuka-Levi. The path that led through the burnt forest was shining bright on the map, which meant that he was heading in the right direction. The path ended somewhere called the Beach of Shoes, and opposite this beach was an island called the Isle of the Nuka-Levi. There was a warning on the bottom of the map saying in big dark letters, "Don't forget to take off your shoes." There was no time to wonder what that might mean. Might be pretty obvious though, mightn't it? Bodkin drank a glug of water from his water bottle. He was sick with hunger, but the burnt forest contained no food, and he couldn't return now. He had to go on. Excuse me. Riding on Night Eye's back, all the while taking terrified glances up at the sky above, scared that at any moment he might see a witch, even though witches weren't all that keen on flying during the daytime. The broken trees didn't provide much camouflage. Bodkin arrived at the Beach of Shoes very late in the evening, hungry, thirsty, and so terrified by the sight of the distant island of the Nuka-Levi, crouching like a dark, predatory creature on the horizon. He fell asleep on Night Eye's back, and Night Eye had to carry him on in a dead faint to the edge of the water. He woke up again at the brink of the ocean, waves breaking on the shore. Looking out at the island, Bodkin shivered and thought, I have to do this for her. I have to prove that I can be a hero too, even if I will only be a dead hero. Maybe if I'm a dead hero, she'll at least forgive me. Night Eye swam out to the island with Bodkin, who could not swim, holding on to her tail. What am I doing? Thought Bodkin. Some hero I am. I can't even swim. Bodkin and Night Eye landed on the Isle of the Nuka-Levi, and Night Eye shook off the water like a cat. Bodkin felt rising determination as he put a hand on the hilt of the enchanted sword and pulled down his visor. Before him were the sands of the beach, and the waters of the ocean were running into a dark and dreadful cave, open like the jaws of a monster. The cave of the Nuka-Levi. Bodkin felt his heart shrivel within him as he looked at it. But I got here on my own. I can't do this, thought Bodkin. I am stronger than they think I am. He tried to pull out the enchanted sword, but for some reason it would not budge from its scabbard. It was stuck fast as if it was glued there. By the whiskers of werewolves! I'm not even strong enough to draw the sword. But Bodkin made himself put one foot in front of the other, even though it was like each foot was made out of lead. Bodkin stopped suddenly, feeling he'd forgotten something. Do you know what he's forgotten to do? I do. What was it? What on earth could it be? He looked down. I forgot to take off my shoes! Bodkin's eyes closed, and his head slumped gently to one side. He tripped forward, fell face down in the sand. There was a terrible high screeching noise from behind and above, like the sound of swooping furies. the sound of many, many scrabbling feet on the sand, panting furiously, running towards the intruders. Night Eye gave a terrified yowl, her fur all on end. She picked up the fallen Bodkin and ran into the cave of the Nuckalevy, the unconscious Bodkin dangling from her mouth like a cat carrying a kitten, and goodness knows what awaited them in there. No, I don't think Bodkin was quite ready to perform a quest all on his own. Wish and Czar and their companions arrived at the Beach of Shoes the next morning, so early that the sun was not yet up. They had lost track of Bodkin for a bit, and it took the Snowcats a while to pick up his scent again. When they finally reached the Beach of Shoes, Wish and Czar found a small log boat hidden in reed banks, which they would be able to use to cross the sea to the island of the Nuckalevy. They hid the enchanted door under branches and leaves. For complicated magical reasons, doors have difficulty flying over oceans. They get seasick and capsize. Who knew? Many of the rocks on the beach had sprite writings that gleamed in the light of the moon scrawled all over them. The sprite writing said quite politely, "Please take off your shoes," and then added more ominously, "or else." "You have to take off your shoes," explained Caliban, "out of respect for the sea and the impossible quest. Then you become the shadow men and women, the shoeless ones, and only when you return are you allowed to put them back on again." Obediently, Wish and Crusher took off their shoes. Czar wasn't wearing any, anyway, because he had left the only place for gifted wizards dressed as a hob. Crusher walked ahead a few steps and carefully laid down his shoes on the grass at the edge of the beach. And for the first time, the children noticed that all along the outer perimeter of the shore, higher than the tide could reach, was a line of shoes, patiently waiting for their owners to come back. Some of them had been waiting a very long, long time. Their leather was wind-battered, storm-eaten, half-broken, and buried in the sand. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Others looked perkier and more hopeful. Excuse me. Excuse me again. As if their owners had only just taken them off. Oh, excuse me. And were about to return. I don't know why my sneezes always make me do that. Not so very many people come back to get extra shoes. Now, when I sneeze, somebody doesn't like me sneezing. Just for 2 seconds, I will show you what happens. 2 seconds. So when I sneeze, this happens. Somebody doesn't like mummy sneezing. So sneezing brings on the dog. Anyway, so here's the dog. The dog will leave. She just needs to check that mummy is okay, because mummy has just sneezed. Where were we? Not very many people come back to collect their shoes, squeaked Bumbleboozle in a nervous alarm. Ariel's eyes gleamed red and green, particularly when you consider these are the shoes of some of the greatest wizards in the Wild Woods. They couldn't find Bodkin's shoes, so they weren't sure if he'd got there before them or not. Crusher picked up the small boat, carefully carried it across the beach, and put it gently in the water. The others followed in his giant footsteps. There were will-o'-the-wisps flying right out of the bogs and onto the beach in a glorious firework display, singing and taunting and pulling the hair of the sprites. Will-o'-the-wisps are by far mean little fairies than sprites. They hate even more than piskies. At least piskies are only mischievous. Will-o'-the-wisps willfully lead unwary travellers to their doom. Oh, stop it. Stop it. She just does not like sneezing. "Don't you dare go after the will-o'-the-wisps," shouted Czar, shaking his fists. "I'm warning you all. Pay no attention to them. Ignore them." But it was very hard to ignore the impudent little creatures, and their eerie song Stomp sent a chill into Wish's soul and made her swallow hard. Whatever was over on the island must be very, very, very scary indeed. It's very difficult to read a story with a spaniel stuck in your face. "The Nuckalevy," sang the will-o'-the-wisps. "The fool's on the way to see the Nuckalevy. Careless, loveless, heart-worn soul blast, come this way." I really hate singing on here. So it seemed as the spaniel. "Thoughtless, shoeless, hopeless, come this way. Love is weakness, love is kindness, love is childish. Love is thoughtless, no more second chances. Stop it. No more silly dances. Love is weakness, so come this way. Take no notice. Don't look back until we've got in the boat, said Caliburn, all of a fluster. Crusher. All right. I'm so sorry. Tied the rope to the front of the boat, and they all jumped in. The giant waded out thigh deep, and then he gave a great shiver of, "Oh, it's cold," before holding his nose and launching himself into the sea in a great breaststroke, sending backward waves that nearly turned their boat. When the sky turned dark, oh, she's going to jump off. There you go. Phew! When the sky turned dark, the moon shone, and the swimming giant pulled the boat after him along the path of the moon, heading out to the island of the Nuku'alofa, with the sprites singing overhead. The wolves and the snowcats put their heads over the side of the boat, waggling their ears as they looked back at the beach. They could still see the shoes. The shoes were waiting. They would wait forever if they had to. And did they know, but there were other eyes than the will-o'-the-wisps watching them leave the beach of shoes. Excuse me again. The eyes of the witches. Witches were crouching like great dark spiders in the reed beds, muttering to each other, Shehezgin Mok, Shehezgin Mok, which means, she's coming, she's coming. But oddly, they did not yet attack. They were waiting too. What were they waiting for? Crusher swam, though, through the quiet black water so far out that they could no longer see the shore and the beach with the waiting shoes behind them, and then Wish began to feel not so brave. As they drew closer to the island of the Nuku'alofa, the shadowy outline coming nearer and nearer, bottles began to appear in the ocean. At first only a few passing the logboat every now and then, but then there were more and more and more and more and more of them. Zar leant over the side of the logboat and picked one out of the water. It was a perfectly ordinary bottle, with a black piece of paper on it, and a bit of hair and a fingernail, and some other things he couldn't quite identify. "Why are these bottles here?" said Wish. "They're curse bottles," said Zar, putting the bottle back in the water. "Somebody on that island must be putting them in the water and pushing them out to sea. Whoever it is really doesn't like someone else, but I don't know who. Normally, you write the name of the person you are cursing on the piece of paper, but there's nothing written on the paper." Wish shivered. There were so many bottles bobbing past the sea around them. That was an awful lot of cursing, and she really didn't want to meet whoever was behind it. Mists suddenly descended out of nowhere, great choking sea mists, treacherous, shifting there 1 minute, gone the next, sometimes so thick that they could barely see the comforting head of Crusher swimming out in front of them. But they knew they were still going the right way, for they were following the bottles. Ariel tasted the mist. "This fog is not natural. It is magic, summoned by the Druids," whispered Ariel, his eyes gleaming red for danger in the swirling, confusing fog all around them. "The Druids are concealing something." The mists cleared, and there it was finally close up, the Isle of the Nuku'alofa. "Oh, my goodness!" squeezed Bumbleboozle, turning multiple somersaults in panic. "It's not an island, it's a monster! Look at it, how big its jaws are! Please, can we go back, please?" But Wish screwed up her eyes and flicked up her eye patch a smidgen because her magic eye was good at seeing through magical made mists. "That's not a mouth. It's a cave. A dark island shrouded in fog with a gigantic dark sea cave. Does, I suppose, look like an open mouth of a monster in the dark." And that's that chapter done. I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.